Illinois Stories is brought to you by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by the support of viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Mark McDonald in Jacksonville, in front of the JHS Bowl, nearly one of a kind. There are only about a dozen of these bowls built around the country. It was built in 1952, and a couple of years ago, it had seen better days. But a massive public effort to raise money has brought it back. Kristen Becker-Hoffman, as we look at the name of your deceased husband, who had a lot to do with this project, we marvel at this thing that's more than 60 years old, which has undergone a complete facelift and now will be ready for the basketball season in 2014.
He would be very proud.
He would, wouldn't he? He'd be very proud. It's quite a story. Mm-hmm. It's quite a story. Not only this old structure is quite a story, but how it survived through the years, and this recent facelift we're talking about. Yes. And you really saw, boy, this has got to be done. This is part of Jacksonville, right?
It is. When Bobby and I moved back here after deciding to come back and get married here, we decided that we really wanted to make sure that we understood how we could give back to the community. Both JHS graduates, and he was a basketball player, I was a cheerleader, and we spent so much time together here, and we really understood the importance, passion that we had for this building. And also wanted to highlight and make sure that our community remembered what an icon we have here. It's just an amazing place.
Yeah, and not too many communities have a facility like this. And the reason I know that is because before I came over here, I asked around, and I knew enough people in Jacksonville to say, I'm not familiar with the bowl, tell me about the bowl. They all had a story, and they all revere this facility, which is the basketball court for Jacksonville High School.
It is. It's amazing. It's a standalone sports facility. When it was opened in 1952, it actually was the gymnasium that was used for the high school, which is just catty corner from the bowl. And when a new high school was built, this kind of ended with just focusing on the sports facility. Our varsity, our JV, and our freshman basketball team still utilize this, but what is amazing is watching the community still using it. Lots of fundraisers, the Paziment Walkers were here earlier today, the elementary schools, the junior high, and our community groups use it. So it's really important for us to work to save it.
During this Illinois story, we're going to talk about the bowl, the historic part of the bowl. It's over 60 years old now. What it's gone through over the years, why it needed this work that it's done, how that all got accomplished, how the money got raised, who did the work. You don't do something like this on your own, do you?
No, we don't. No, Bobby and I, along with Amy Albers, helped to create the Preservation of the Bowl Committee. And it was a joint effort among many alumni that came together just to say we need to take some opportunity to look at this place. The standalone sports facility these days is not going to get a lot of general fund money. Yeah. And we needed to really bring some passion and focus to this building. So in May of 2012, that committee was created. Unfortunately, at the same time, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And so that summer it was hard for us to get engaged and involved in the committee, but Amy took the lead and a wish list was created. And luckily in August, Bobby and I, before my chemotherapy started, we were able to meet with the committee, talk about all the very small things that needed to happen, but also some big things that needed to happen. We had a really great list going, and a couple weeks later he died of a stroke at 41.
Oh my goodness.
He loved this place. His best friend J.R. Dugan was the coach at the time, and for 6 years he was able to volunteer his time to be an assistant basketball coach. And at the time of his death, the basketball team rallied around my family, and the community rallied around my family, and we thought to ourselves, the memorials have to go to the bowl. We need to create the JHS Bowl Fund, and the momentum and the memorials started us off. and this community rose to the occasion.
You have brought together a pictorial history for us, and we'll get to look through some of the phases of it. We'll get to know a little bit more about Bobby, your husband, and we'll see some nice pictures. As we look at this place, as we stand in the bowl and we look at these bleachers, every one of them's new. Right? Every one of them's been replaced.
It was important for us at the end of that committee meeting. We talked about the larger things. If we had all the money and all the time in the world, what would we put on there? The first was a new floor. Bobby was adamant that we needed to look at the floor. And then we also talked about the bleachers. The bleachers had not been touched in over 60 years.
Oh my goodness.
And so we just really thought it was important to focus on that. But at the time, it was hard because it's a standalone sports facility. There's only so many fundraisers that you can have. And we talked about we needed that momentum. Unfortunately, his death brought the momentum. My daughters wanted to get involved and help with the fundraising. We had the memorial money coming in. And the girls came up with a lemonade stand. We needed something to do during the basketball season. Those boys needed us to be here, and we needed to be here as well. And my daughter said, "Mama, how can I help? What can I do?" And the idea was born. So that entire season, we were able to have a lemonade stand here. Their lemonade stand matched our memorial money. It was really amazing to see the community really being able to support. It's fun when people say, "How can I help?" And sometimes families going through grieving process don't have an answer, but we did. People baked cookies, they donated, they helped us serve, and we were so grateful for all that they did. It was very therapeutic for us too.
Well, and now you have this wonderful facility to show. You also have arranged to have some of the people here today to talk to us who were responsible for getting a lot of this done.
Yes, it was a large puzzle, and we knew what the end piece was going to look like, but we didn't know how the pieces were going to fall together. And it's really an amazing journey for the last 2 years. It's been very therapeutic for me to be able to complete something that I think Bobby would be very happy.
Kristen, thank you.
Thank you.
Amy Albers, we've heard your name mentioned already as being instrumental in this whole process of renovating the bowl. You work for the Public Schools Foundation.
I do.
Is that right?
I am. I'm the director of the Public Schools Foundation.
Yeah, and this is a very important facility.
It is. It's a iconic structure in our community, but it's also important to our district. It's history of our district also.
Yeah, and you knew right off the bat when Kristen wanted to get something moving here, you knew right off the bat that you needed to be involved in that.
Well, it started when I knew that the bowl was getting ready to celebrate 60 years, and we needed to do a big celebration for that, and all the TLC that this bowl needed. So I got together there's a lot of passion for the bowl, and so I gathered about 8 people that I knew were going to be passionate about it and said, okay, we have till December, till the first home game. What can we get accomplished? We walked through the bowl, we made a wish list, and we started from there, and we got a lot done. Things changed in September when one of our committee members passed away, and we lost Bobby Hoffman, but it really brought some passion to this project, and we have been able to accomplish so much more than I ever dreamt when I started this.
Let's walk through the process a little bit. Here's a good picture of the bowl. This is right after it was built. You say it's over 60 years old now. 1952 was when it was started. There weren't many facilities like this. It's historically significant, isn't it?
It is. It is historically significant, and there aren't many like it. We are called the Bowl for a reason, but also it's a standalone sports facility that even today we have teams that we play in our conference that look forward to coming and playing in this facility. Many will say it's the best facility in downstate Illinois.
This architect that built this was from Indiana, and he only made so many of them. You've got sort of a rarity, don't you?
Absolutely, a treasure.
We call it a treasure. Okay, we'll go with that. Let's move down the way a little bit because it's interesting how all this unfolded. Here's some historic pictures, of course, of the basketball teams that played in here. But we've talked so much about Bobby and Kristen, and here's a picture of Bobby before he passed away, and this was probably when the project was underway?
No, that's actually before even. I mean, Bobby was just passionate about anything Crimson, and especially the bowl and boys basketball.
And he was a volunteer coach, wasn't he?
Yes.
And in fact, we have a picture of him here
he
on the floor.
He absolutely was. He was an inspiration is what I will say, because I have a son that played for him, and he was an inspiration to those boys. What a great role model he was. And I thanked his mom since then for raising a son that's such a great role model for our young kids.
Now, tell me about this. This is quite an incident. This was an occasion, wasn't it?
This is really kind of what got things going when I started thinking about, we're going to celebrate the Bowl's 60th anniversary. And I didn't know at the time we were also going to be celebrating Bobby, but this is a celebration of the 1952-53 basketball team. So the very first team that would have
Oh, they came back. The old players came back?
Yes,
Oh,
they
great.
were thrilled to be here. We had a
Wow.
wonderful turnout, and so yeah, it was a spectacular event.
We talked about Kristen's cancer and her treatments, and this is at a time when she and her kids were going through a very difficult, painful time. She certainly looks good now.
She certainly does, and she was a rock. And her kids, I know, lifted her up constantly, and I know that they were her motivation for everything during those times.
All these fundraising events. This is a good example, isn't it? Wow.
It truly is amazing how many people made cookies for Leah's Lemonade
That
and
is
Colby's
amazing.
Cookies. Just amazing, the
A
support.
community lemonade stand, isn't that something?
It really was.
Okay, this is where you had to start. Now look at some of these bleachers. We talked about all the bleachers are new now, but look at the abominable shape they were in. I bet you picked up a splinter or two, didn't you?
I have to tell you, I forgot how good they look now. I forgot what kind of shape they were in until I see these pictures again. But this wasn't even on our radar when we
Before and
first
after.
started this project. It was too big to even grasp, to comprehend. Bobby had mentioned that the floor needed some work, and Kristen and I kind of looked at each other at that time and thought, he just doesn't realize how much money and how much effort that was.
Look at you have the inmates from the local prison helping out too, and you can see that they did a lot of work, didn't they? And still are doing work.
Absolutely. It would not have happened without them. It would not have happened without every key player we have involved in this. And you know, we did get the bleachers done, and we did get the floor done, and Kristen is a woman on a mission and got those things completed and got them done by our first home game we're going to have.
How much money are we talking about that had to be raised to make this happen?
Oh, we have raised over $100,000.
Wow.
Yeah. We have raised over $100,000, and that is not big corporate donations. That's community, that's, you know, friends and family that maybe don't live in the area, but Bobby was special to them. I mean, Bobby's memorials alone paid for the floor.
Wow.
And he is the inspiration, so I think it's very appropriate that that's how it worked out. But yeah.
Well, Amy, thanks for taking us through the process. It is inspirational. It is inspirational.
It truly is. Every day I show up here and more is done, and I just am overwhelmed by the generosity and Kristen's ability to make this happen.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
John gets it. It's funny how we find out about things that we later get involved in. It's like the river doesn't always, or the source doesn't always know where the river's going to run. You know what I mean? You get involved in it, and then you find out, you know, I didn't know it was going to lead to that. One day you're looking in the Springfield newspaper, and you see an article from Jacksonville about a couple of kids that are involved in a volunteer effort. And you get involved, and voila, here you are, you know, working on the bowl.
Yeah.
That's a pretty cool story.
Yeah, no, I've known the Becker family for over 20 years, and when I saw Kristen's daughters in there trying to raise money to refurbish the bowl, I felt compelled to give Kristen a call and reach out to her here that following week. And to that end, we did make a connection, and she said, well, we're trying to raise some money, and our first idea is that we're going to try to cut up the floor, the old gym floor, because it needs to be replaced, and maybe cut it up in squares where we can sell it and raise some money that way.
Yeah.
So I said to that end, well, let me schedule a time, we'll come over and take a look at it.
Yeah. And so you looked at the floor, and your expert looked at this floor and said, hey, this floor's in good shape. Don't be cutting this up.
That's right. We, after I saw it, I suggested to Kristen that I reach out to a flooring expert that I've worked with on some of my other school projects over the years. And that was Steve Stalker out of Wisconsin. And Steve was gracious enough to come down here. He had just finished a floor over at McMurray College. And he came in here a week or two later, and he took a look at this floor, and he says, this floor is excellent shape. He says, you don't want to go replacing this floor.
We saved him up to $50,000, $60,000, $70,000
Oh,
maybe.
yeah. It's a heck of a floor, he said.
Yeah.
He said they just don't make them like this anymore.
Terrific.
And his suggestion was to let's get it refinished, repaired in some areas where it needs to be repaired, and reduce some of the painting and just bring it up to 21st century.
There's a good example right over here of some of the work they had to do, and it
Yeah.
wasn't much, was it? I mean,
No.
There's little corners where maybe the wood had come apart.
They had some open joints here, and to that end, Steve came in here and did a little dovetailing. But he's made it look like a brand new floor,
Yeah.
and I think they're very happy with the end result. And to that end, they didn't have to spend the money on the floor, but could devote the money to other items to fix up the
and
bowl.
you had some other folks help out too, didn't you?
I did. We reached out as my construction company, R.D. Lawrence Construction Company. We're a union contractor in Springfield, and we employ carpenters, laborers, operating engineers, and iron workers. And to that extent, I reached out to the Carpenters program, and in the past, we have done some work for Make-A-Wish, and they helped with the apprenticeship program to accomplish the young man's wish. And to that end, that was like 25 years ago. To that end, though, I reached out to him again in the school up in Pekin, where all the apprentices get trained now. Rob Swagel came down and visited with us and the local business agent, Roger West. And he came in here and we said the bleachers are our focus right now, and they need to be refinished. They must have had a ton of gum on the back side. And to that end, I supplied some personnel, as well as there was some from the work camp, some personnel that came out here to get the bleachers off, and that was a delicate operation because we wanted to reuse the boards. We just wanted to have them replaned and refinished. And to that end, we thought about having it here at the Jacksonville High School, the woodworking shop, and somebody like that take care of it. But when Rob came down, he says, "You just get the boards off. We'll send a trailer down here from the apprenticeship school. We'll load the boards on there. We'll take them back up. We'll plane them all down. We'll bring them back here to you." And so to that end, we worked out a sequence. Got half of it done last year, and then the other half was done this past
And that's
fall.
ready for the basketball
And
season.
it's ready, yeah.
Terrific.
And Kristen's done a fine job, and I know she's had a lot of help. But there was a saying up there in the Hall of Fame that I saw while I was waiting to come down here and talk to you, and there's a quote from John Wooden that says, "It's amazing what can be accomplished when nobody's worried about who's going to get the credit." And Chris has done a great job, and I'm very happy with the outcome myself.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Buford Green, right off of the level before you step down onto the court, there's an anteroom here, and it holds the Jacksonville High School Hall of Fame. And was this the first high school Hall of Fame?
To my knowledge, the first in this area, first I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Because in years since, several schools have come to us and said, "How'd you do it? Help us get started."
Yeah. Well, it's neat because now that you got this, looks like a new facility, and you've got a lot more reason for people to come here and visit and sort of circulate around.
It gets a lot of traffic. This was, Hall of Fame was started in '83. This room was dedicated in '87. It's been, as you can see, well taken care of.
Yeah.
And it gets a lot of traffic all times. And just this year, the committee, the foundation has done a wonderful job of updating.
Yeah.
We're really proud of it.
Okay, take a walk with me over here, will you? Because there's some people we want to highlight while we're here. I think you were telling me that there have only been 4 numbers retired from Jacksonville High School.
Yes, that's to my knowledge.
And that would be the first one that we can see over there on the corner is Andy Kaufman. Folks that remember University of Illinois basketball back in the, I think he played in the 80s, was he?
Late
1990
80s.
or so, yeah. He was a terrific scorer, wasn't he?
Great scorer. I think he's still second all time in the history of Illinois basketball.
Wow, he was a machine, and he was all state. He was a terrific basketball player here at Jacksonville.
Played at University of Illinois, and last check in the top 10 scoring all time there.
Right next to him, and I remember Missy Aggert. I used to work with her father, but she was a great volleyball player, wasn't she? Probably good at everything, but she was an
She
outstanding volleyball
was a freshman the year that Jacksonville won the state tournament. Jacksonville only team state championship. It was all state. 4 years.
Her number 19 is retired.
Went on to Florida.
Just to the right, you'll see there's a number 20, Lady
Sarah
Crimson's.
Long.
What was her name?
Sarah Long.
We don't have a picture of her.
There will be one forthcoming.
There will be. Okay, all right.
Great scorer in basketball. All-around great athlete. A recent grad.
And maybe one of the best, probably the best athlete to come out of Jacksonville was Kenny Norton. Everybody knows that name because he was a heavyweight champion, boxing champion.
Heavyweight champion, was a four-sport star at Jacksonville.
Yeah.
graduated in 61. Went to college in Northeast Missouri. Went on to the Marines, became a boxer, won a world title, and boxed all of the top boxers during what most experts say the best era of heavyweight boxing
I
ever.
think so. I think he defeated Muhammad Ali, did he not?
They fought 3 times.
Yeah.
Kenny won the first one. Ali was given the decision in the second two.
And didn't Kenny also win some state track titles?
Yes. He's best known at track. He kept bugging his coach. He wanted to get him more events. Because he could do everything. And finally, Coach Rosenberger, his mentor, said, okay, just get in all of them. And he did.
Just don't stop, right?
He won like 10 out of 12.
Oh my goodness.
So they put in the Norton rule, which still stands. It's 4 individual
I'll be darned.
events.
He was too good. He was too good, wasn't he? And there was another really fine athlete here at Jacksonville. I did not know his name. What was that name?
Right, Creston Whitaker, graduated in 65. Was an all-around great athlete. Was a star on the undefeated football team in 64. A star on the baseball team in 65, the Springfield. Only time he'd ever been to the state tournament. And then in basketball, all-state, he went to super sectional. He went first to Southern Illinois University, where, as I mentioned, he played behind Walt Frazier.
Yeah.
So he left, went to North Texas, had a great career.
Yeah.
Was drafted by the LA Rams in football.
Wow.
And played a couple of years.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Neff, having been involved in the building of this back in 1952, when you walk into this building, does it bring back memories to you?
Oh, sure. Sure. Like it was yesterday.
Like it was yesterday?
Because it was a different atmosphere altogether. It was empty on the lights on the sides. And, the west building, the west side over here was built first, and the east side was built second. And then the floor was dug out after that because there was no way that we had a crane large enough to reach the roof. So we dug the thing out while the ground was still here in the middle at this level here.
That was the plan, right?
That was the plan, yeah.
And this was a very unusual...
That was Mr. Gibson's idea.
And it was unusual, wasn't it? It was
Oh,
unusual
it was weird,
design.
crazy. But that's the way we did it.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have any cranes big enough to do otherwise.
Yeah.
So we dug the hole and then put the roof over the hole.
And then put the roof over it. And it's worked fine, hasn't it? Did you ever wonder, like he said, what was he thinking?
Well, yeah, because I was 30 years old, and when a kid's 30 years old, he has different ideas about architecture, and they don't always fit. But he bought it, and my boss, Mr. Gibson, Hugh Gibson, was his idea, and that's the way we did it.
It's a good thing you followed the plans.
Oh. And I was just telling my wife when we dug the hole, we hauled all the dirt out the north side of the building, or that street, and then hauled it away from there, and poured the concrete and all the stuff in afterwards, and the roof afterwards.
Did you think that you'd be around 60 years later to celebrate the anniversary of this place?
You gotta be kidding me.
That makes you 90-some years old now.
I'm 92.
92. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's a nice building. You did a good job.
It don't leak yet.
It doesn't leak yet. There you go.
Or hasn't today.
Thank you, Mr. Neff. That's terrific.
Welcome.
Judge Bone, you ran up and down this floor lots of times as a student, I'll bet, back in the, 1950s?
Late 50s.
Late 50s, okay. So the building was still pretty new at that time.
Sure was.
Yeah, it was quite a place, wasn't it?
It was unique, I thought, at the time. There have been a few more like this built around the country. I've been in 50 or more gyms, played in them.
Yeah.
This is the best one.
That's cool. And it's still good. I mean, it's better than it has been in years. Your dad, Dr. Bone, had an interesting story about procuring some of the materials to build this thing with.
Right, Dr. E.C. Bone, M.D.
Mm-hmm.
And he came here from medical school in the late 40s. And so he had friends in the community, but in 1950, he joined the Navy Reserve, and they drafted him. They put him on active duty. His friends were people like Bill Fay, the attorney for the school district 117, and Harry Dowland was a school board member. They came out to see him after they'd been denied their application from the federal commission that allocates the steel in the United States during the Korean War. It was hard to get. Contractor couldn't get it, so they had to get permission from the feds. Dad got it from the dinner table, walked over to the phone, called his cousin, Sarah Kozad, C-O-Z-A-D, from Scioto. He's from Prairie City.
Okay.
That's how tight this is. She puts her husband on. He's chairman of the commission. He says, "Oh, I didn't see them. I just saw the paper. The aides denied it, recommended it, so I denied it." He said, "Go in the side door," which is the back door, really. And they did. The next morning, got it approved. We got our steel.
And this could not have been built without that steel.
Absolutely.
Yeah, terrific story. Thanks, Judge.
You're welcome.
Well, Bob Hoffman, the work does go on, even though I heard that the bleachers were done, but not quite.
Not
right?
quite.
What are you having to do?
Final step. These boards are 62 years old, so we had to come up with a plan to get them off. And there's so much grime around here that we have to loosen it up before we can knock out the bolts.
I see.
And if you don't, this is what happens. It brings up the wood. So we have to go back through and
apply a little
fill
wood
it in,
putty.
a little wood putty.
Yeah. This is an interesting story because all these were removed and planed and sanded and repaired and then brought back and put back down again.
Right,
Yeah.
except you missed one step.
Really? What's that one step?
After we take them off, we take them outside, turn them over, and scrape off gum.
Oh my goodness.
62 years.
Decades and decades
62
and
years
decades of gum.
I would guess there's probably average between 50 and 75 pieces of gum per board.
Oh my
And you can
goodness.
see how many boards we have here.
And there's no market for that old gum, is there?
No, we couldn't get rid of it.
Nobody wants that old gum.
Nobody wants
Oh,
old gum.
doggone it. I tell you, they're going to have some gum police in this place now because no
yeah.
more gum on the bleachers.
Yeah, I suggested they put a sign up at the door.
Yeah.
Please use the waste baskets.
I've been told by numerous people here that this project couldn't have happened without you. You've been here every day.
I've been here every day, and well, the big thing is the inmates from Greene County workplace did all the heavy work, thank God.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've been here with Kristen from day one, and it's been 2 years, but we got it done. And it's been a labor of love, really.
Yeah. Well, it literally a labor of love because it was your son Bobby who passed away right as this got underway, and spurred the momentum to get it done.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it is a terrific project, and you all can be very proud of one of the best high school venues anywhere.
It is one of the best.
The bowl is this close to being ready for action. Around Thanksgiving, it'll host the first game of the season, and then it'll be rededicated in December of this year. With another Illinois story in Jacksonville, I'm Mark McDonald. Thanks for watching.
Illinois Stories is brought to you by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by the support of viewers like you. Thank you. For a DVD copy of the program you've just seen, send 1995 to Network Knowledge, P.O. Box 6248, Springfield, Illinois 62708. Be sure to include the program name, subject, and when the program aired. You can also order with your credit card by calling 800-232-3605.